Hey there YouTube, Petey Two Finger here with the ABCs of vaping. Today is the episode letter C, there is a shitload of topics. There's a lot of words relevant that begin with the letter C. So I'm going to go ahead. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining here in the Windy City. How are you guys? I am fantastic. I wanted to tell you the story. I was at a party and there was this guy and he was kind of like annoying guy. He had consumed like 3/4 of the snacks for the entire party by himself in like 15 minutes. And he was shaking his knee. And like the whole party was kind of shaking. And, sitting there like prison style, like eating all the food. And someone approached this guy. I think it was like getting on this guy's nerves, the niche, the shaking. And so this guy walks up to him and goes, "Hey, how are you doing, man?" And he goes, "Me? I'm fantastic." It was just like, really? Like, I don't know. I never forget that. Lord forgive me. So C is for charger. These are electronic cigarettes. If you are familiar with a cig-alike style vape, this is a Marlboro brand Mark 10. And so there is a USB style connector on one end. There's the LED, let you know what's going on. And then this is the battery that actually screws on there. We'll put that down where it belongs. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this is an Ego style charger. Now, Ego is like, it's kind of like the next step, like coming off of those cig-alikes. I graduated to the Ego. And so this has, the USB style input for the power. And then here is the business end where the battery screws onto here. There is the indicator LED. Our more advanced vaping stuff uses larger batteries, like 18650 is very popular. This is an 18500 type of battery that I'm going to pull out of this unsafe mechanical mod. Here we go. There's an E-Fest 18500. That's the brand. That's an 18500 mod battery. Those are lithium ion cells. That would be charged in my IntelliCharger Nightcore IntelliCharger D2, which has a 110 wall socket. Now, most of these, like the Ego style, is a very popular charger. They will come with a AC wall style adapter that has the USB style plug. Now, this brings me to a point of you can plug this into your computer, and like if you built your own computer and you're aware, or you have upgraded the power supply, maybe you'd want to go ahead. I generally do not recommend plugging these into a computer. Why? Well, the computer has already kind of got enough to do. The power supply may be like powering the rest of the computer, so it might not be the best idea, especially like if you have a laptop and let's say you're trying to play Crisis on high and you're gonna like every USB like C is also for, let's be careful. When proper operation with these batteries, you're not really going to run into a problem. If you exercise, C is for common sense. So you wouldn't want to like get like a 6-foot USB extension and then like a bunch of splitters and like plug all those in and have a bunch. You know what I mean? Just common sense. Like I do. I have this. This is a real short USB adapter and it's very thick as well. Like, comparing the size of the cable, the black cable is the charger that goes to the battery. So yeah, I use this sometimes. Certain things I use that with charging. The best idea for me, I found, was to get a USB hub. It's like a little stand-up device, and it's got a real thick wire going down to a real honking big power supply. So that has a half a dozen ports on it. I never ran more than 4 was the most of these little Ego chargers, and that came out to be at a half an amp draw. 4 would be 2 amps, and I did read that it was 3.5 maximum output. So there was 1.5 amp of headroom, which is good. I like to have a little bit running things just like with no extra, like, that would be like taking your car and holding the gas all the way down every time you operate it. Motor might not last as long. And that's what you're doing when you plug one of these into your USB port. If you read what it says on here, it is a 0.5 amp or, a half an amp draw, and that's what those USB ports are rated at. And I mean, you can get away with it, but might not be the best. Again, C for common sense. I never charge unattended. I'm always in the room when I'm charging, and I tend to check it. C is for check it. I checked, I'll put my back of my hand, is this thing getting hot? I checked the main power supply that's plugged into the wall. When I had all 4 of those running on there, I put my hand on there and see, is this thing getting hot? I don't want a problem, So again, C, common sense. Now, this is going to be a massive episode. I'm going to try to keep this under a half hour. C is for cartomizer. With these E-Cigs, there's always a power supply, the drip tip or the mouthpiece, and then the middle part where the magic happens, where e-liquid is converted into vapor for us to enjoy. This middle section, they classified the engine, the motor, classified as an atomizer, cartomizer, or clearomizer. The cartomizer is a tube of polyfill material that holds the e-liquid, and then there is a heating element or a coil with threads on the bottom of it. So in your e-cigarette, your cig-alike style, like a blue, that is what that is. It's a cartomizer. They're typically thought of as disposable. I mean, you can tamper with them and refill them. Some of them are intended to be refilled. They have cartomizer style replaceable units with a tank full of liquid where you replace this cartomizer when it's kind of burnt out and tasting funky, and they punch holes in those. So there's all sorts of different cartomizers. It's proven technology. It's been around the block. It doesn't mean it's bad. Anything that keeps us away from analog cigarettes or real cigarettes is good. We're not going to judge people and go, he's not even dripping a triple Kanger Tech, that guy's like, we're vapors. We embrace everyone. We want to, let's not smoke. That's the main point. Whatever keeps you away from the stinkies, as folks like to say. Now, the other device, the other category of engine would be the clear-o-mizer. Mizer meaning it's storing all of your e-liquid for you. The clear means it's clear. You can see it. This is a CE, I think it's a CE6, CE4, something like that. It's a bottom style. This has a cartomizer in it, but it's called a clearomizer because it's clear. You unscrew, and a lot of the starter kits come with these CE style. So you would pour your e-liquid in here, fill it up, screw this back on here. This would screw onto the Eagle style battery, and then you're good to go. That's your starter kit style. A lot of people, this is what I started with after I screwed around with those. And you know what? I don't want to constantly slag on the E-Cig, the cig-alike, like the Mach 10, the Blue, the Enjoy King, whatever. That, for me, I was a really, really heavy smoker, so it didn't cut the mustard. If you're like a half a pack a day guy, even a pack of, like 5 smokes a day, that might be, I don't want to discourage anyone from e-cigarettes. It's just that you may find that cig-alike, those blues, the Mark 10s, the Enjoys, all of that stuff might not be enough for you. And like, if you find yourself wasting time and money and going, yeah, I tried those e-cigs, they didn't work for me, well, that may be because you tried an inferior product. If the product is manufactured by Big Tobacco and Big Tobacco is lobbying to eliminate vaping, if they're trying to take control of it and only put out these little devices that don't really work, that may want to tend to think that something's going on here. And that is indeed what's been going on. They actually passed it in Indiana, so it's kind of it's a sticky situation. Now, the cartomizer inside of that CE2, CE4. CE2 has like little wick guys that come down. That's the heater is up at the top, and it draws through these silica ropes. It looks real creepy. It almost looks like a spider inside this little cage. Now, we also have more advanced, more functional design. Very popular unit is called the Kanger Pro Tank 2. It is a clearomizer. So here's our clear section. You can see how much juice exists. It has a C is for coil. This is a single coil unit sold by Kanger. These are between $5 and $10 for a 5-pack. These work well. You replace this by screwing it into the base and then screwing the base back in. There's an O-ring in there. Some folks claim they can run that for 3 weeks. I found it was good for about a week, and they are good. They're not the best for flavor, but they're good. They really are. That is a good coil. Might run into issues with leakage occasionally, but yeah, the Kanger Pro Tank is an exceptional. It's one of the good designs. They have a Pro Tank 3 Mini, which has a dual coil. Now this, because of it's a dual coil, it can produce a lot more vapor. Running it off a smaller Ego style battery might not be the wisest choice in performance. Like if you were to run this off of a little beefier device, here is a Pro Tank 3 Mini on a 5 to 15 watt adjustable wattage. Can put out even more power. And the Pro Tank 3 works really a lot better in that, as opposed to a, just this smaller output battery. Not quite as good. Like actually, I believe I have a single coil in that unit there, so it functions just fine. Now the Pro Tank 3, like I said, mine are beefed out. I run this airflow adjustment base, which cost me $3. Then there is a BVC adapter ring, which lets me run a different style of coil, which brings me to the Nautilus Aspire Nautilus. Aspire is the company, the product is the Nautilus. This is the Nautilus Mini and the full-size Nautilus. Now these are excellent, especially for beginners. It has a beefy silicone seal, so it does not leak inside that tank. You replace this coil, put that coil in there, and it's going to just run. They taste excellent. They run the coils. You don't have to replace them. I've ran Nautilus coils for almost 3 months. You know what? It was a little over 3 months. Now that I think about it, that was a worst case scenario thing where I don't even want to get into what happened. I tried to order some stuff from overseas and it was bad, and I had to return it, and it was just a mail in to, like, it's a whole nother discussion about the triangle and shipping from Japan, of where you have like value, you have quality, and then shipping time, and you can only get 2 of those. Oftentimes I found you can only get 1 of those. So ordering directly from a USA supplier is ultimately like can be a little bit more expensive, but when you're dealing with something that you kind of need to get promptly, and then having good customer service and support, you may find yourself on the winning end of the deal with that triangle being made in America, or at least buying from an American supplier. This is that coil. This is the Nautilus style. It's called a BVC, and all of my Pro Tanks, I have bought those converter rings, so I'm not running the Kanger coils in there anymore. I've got airflow and BVC coils in there. The BVC means bottom vertical coil, and it's a miniature cartomizer that Nautilus has designed with a different style polyfill. It is a ceramic polyfill, and it just works really, really, really well. So C is for cartomizer, C is for clearomizer. The king of the clearomizers is the Nautilus Mini, in my opinion. C is for coil head. I showed you the Nautilus coil heads. Those come in different ohm ratings for slightly different performances. Typically between 50 cents and $1 a piece, sold in 5-packs. Those are always available at local vape shops, or brick and mortar as we refer to them as. But the superior unit is that Nautilus, the Aspire Nautilus, and those BVC coils are just absolutely fantastic. Now, as you progress into vaping, you enter the world of RDA, rebuildable dripping atomizer, where you drip onto these wicks. They have single up to quad coil units. They have sub-ohm tanks where you replace the coil, and it's a special. This is what's hot right now, the sub-tanks. And that's much more advanced battery safety type of stuff, and like huge clouds of vapor. As a new vapor, you really don't need to concern yourself with much more than what I'm dabbling with here. So I'm going to keep things simple and only touch on the more advanced concepts. The RTA is really where I've been vaping at. These tanks like the K-Fun, the Lemo, the Squape Reloaded, the Earl Konigan, the Typhoon GT2. All of these have a base with two little posts with screws, and you roll your own coil. So then you just have the wire and you spin that around a drill bit and screw that down, and then run a piece of cotton through there, and you're not purchasing even any replaceable coils. You're getting what I get was like $3.50 for this whole 30-foot spool of wire. I'm using about 5 inches at a time to roll out these coils. When I roll a good coil, which is usually between the first and third time if it's a new device, sometimes it may take a couple to get a good one, but typically I can do that well on the first try. I will check it with an ohm meter, or I have a dedicated device. You screw the atomizer in there, and that tells you the ohm readings of it, just for safety's sake. Make sure it isn't a short, so you know before connecting it to something that everything's okay. You're aware of the ohm of the coil, the resistance of the coil, so it will be compatible with the battery that you're using it on. So yeah, I will create that coil. I will test it, and then I will install it, and they run for a long time. 3 months is no problem if you run a good coil by just dry burning it weekly, cleaning it up, and then installing a new wick section of that cotton. But I have different gauges of the Canthal wire here that I utilize to get different ohm ratings. There's all sorts of different coiling jigs. There's like, this is stepped down by 0.5 millimeter for rolling different coils. This is like a little coil bench thing where you wrap it around there, and then lock it down, and then spin it around here. And there's a whole process involving the coiling and rebuilding of the RTA and RDA that's like much more advanced things. So I'm just touching on that briefly, but C is indeed for coil. Now, getting down to the basic end bottom of the barrel here, C is for cutoff. On these devices, they feature a 10-second limit, which if you can't get enough vape after, like, who could even inhale longer than 10 seconds or want to? I mean, I think really what this is for is a safety feature, as if you had this in your pocket at church and your keys were to bump into it and you were praising the Lord, and then at some point, without this cutoff, C for cutoff, there might occur some sort of, Brother Two Finger, the Spirit of the Lord is, he's or is it the guys from downstairs that have cast flames upon Brother Two Finger? So yeah, the cut off. I guess I'll go ahead and so yeah, after 10 seconds it flashes, it shuts itself off. Safety feature, and C being for cut off. Pretty much about all there is to it. So last but not least, probably the most important thing that I'm going to be bringing to you today, and this is kind of a pain in the butt. Pain in the C is for Keister. I want to talk to you about CASA. C-A-S-A-A. CASA stands for Consumer Advocate for Smoke-Free Alternative. Consumer Advocate for Smoke-Free Alternative Association. CASA.org. So I would really encourage you to take a look over at CASA. Type that into your search engine, or go ahead and click on the link I have left underneath. What has been going on is Big Tobacco. There is a video you should take a look at. The truth, why they hate us. The truth about vaping, why they hate us. This video says it all. Big Tobacco is, they're scared, they're losing money, and that money is affecting the greasing palm of the politicians to keep things where they have been, to keep things. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it impossible for us to vape, and they're doing this by levying taxes. This is like one of those rock and roll videos from the 80s when it's like, in the future, heavy metal has been banned, you know, or it's like you remember those videos? They're like, about half of the bands that were out there made a video where that was the premise. And unfortunately, this isn't a bad hair band MTV concept. This is really, it's not tinfoil hat stuff. This is what's going on. So CASA is our last line of defense. CASA is, if you go over there, you can sign up for free. There's no charge to defend your rights to vape. And there are different levels of commitment and anonymity available. Like, they have a package available for you to go and self-immolate if you would like to light yourself on fire. You know, they have a package. They have all sorts of different levels. You can share your story, which is important. What vaping means to you, how you were able to save your own life by utilizing electronic cigarette or vaping, how you broke free from this horrible addiction to analog cigarettes by utilizing vaping. So CASA, check out CASA.org. They have you can join up. There's call to action by states. You can take a look over there. You can see what's going on, how they're levying these insane taxes, how they're trying to ban vaping and vaping devices and e-liquid and all sorts of things. It's just an absolute virtual nightmare. So we do want to be smart. If we support CASA, we support vaping, we support ourselves. So this is kind of, it's a necessary evil. It's a no-brainer. I know it's not like, a lot of folks aren't wired that way, where you don't want to have to stand up and fight for something. Some folks are. But it is important, no matter how we are wired, it is really, really important for us to make an effort to defend your rights to be able to vape, because the way it's going, big tobacco is going to be taking control, and we are going to be stuck with things like the Mark 10, which does not function. I've got a Mark 10 review coming at you shortly, so that should give you more information. There's plenty of future of vaping videos which state this case very eloquently, that have been going around, going back about a month or so. So thank you very much for joining me. C is for CASA, and peace.